Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the student seminar. So today we have 4 speakers, and we'll be speaking on a variety of topics, starting from complex analysis to algebra. And the session will be chaired by Sangeeta Pakhre. Sangeeta is a integrated PhD student at IISER, Trivandrum. Okay, over to you, Sangeeta.
Thank you for the introduction. So welcome to VSSP 2021. We have 4 sessions today, and each will have time bound of 20 minutes. And I will give reminder after 15 minutes. So let's move on to our first speaker. She is Priya Kaveri. She is an MSc student at IIT Madras. She has attended MTTS 2020, MTTS 2021. She has also been a mentor at OFCM CAM 2020. She will be speaking on holomorphic maps and characterization of holomorphicity. So Priya, over to you.
Good morning all. Let's start. So you might have seen complex number Z. Z can be written in X plus IY form, where X and Y are in R, and I is an imaginary number such that I square is -1. So we will start by giving a meaning to this notation. Okay. So the set C of complex numbers is the set R2 with the following rules of addition and multiplication. So how we are defining addition? So addition is just the component wise addition, that is x, y plus uv is defined as x plus u, comma y plus v. And how we define the multiplication? It is defined as x times u minus y times v, comma x times v plus y times u. So this is how we define addition and multiplication. And you can see that the multiplication is defined in such a way that if we identify the number x plus iy as xy R2, and if we multiply x plus iy with u plus iv, the corresponding product can be identified as a point in R2. Okay, so this is the motion for defining multiplication in such a way. Okay, now we identify the set of reals. So how can we identify the set of real numbers? So as you might have guessed, this can be identified with the set x comma 0, where x is in R. Okay, now we will see there is a special guy in C, that is 0 comma 1. So let's see what happen if we multiply 0 comma 1 and 0 comma 1. So let's do it together. When we multiply this, we get 0 times 0, 0 minus 1 times 1, comma 0 plus 0. Right? So this is nothing but minus 1 comma 0, that is minus 1. So we got an element in C whose square is minus 1, something that we don't see. So we call 0 comma 1 to be I. Okay. Now there is one more thing that we need to define, that is IY, where Y is in R. So how can we give a meaning to this symbol? So you might have guessed, we can just define IY as multiplying I with real number Y. So what is I? That is 0 comma 1 and multiplied with Y0. Okay, so now we can define what is x plus iy. Z is equal to x plus iy. So this is nothing but the complex number x0 plus 0, 1 times y0. Okay, for the time being, so we can write the complex number as x plus iy. And we call this x as real part of z. We will denote z. And we call y as imaginary part of z, and we will write imz. Okay, now we say the conjugate of z as x minus iy. So what is this is 2. So if we consider this as the point xy, the complex number z, then the conjugate is but reflect of this point with respect to real axis, right? So this is x comma minus y. So that is conjugate of z. Now we will define one more thing, that is mode z. What is mode z? That is defined to be non-negative square root of x square plus y square. So can you think what is this geometrically? So this is our point xy. So what is root of x square plus y square? It is nothing but the distance between origin and this point, right? Okay. So this is something that we need. Well, so by this motivation, can we define metric on C? We have seen mode Z as distance between 0 and Z. So can you suggest a metric on C? When Z and W belongs to C, what should we define? Okay, we can define mod of Z minus W, right? So we are not going to prove this is a metric now, but you can do this an exercise. So we are happy we got a metric. So now we can talk about open balls, convergence of sequence, continuity and all. So we will move further. Now we will see what does it mean of complex number. So what is sequence in C? A sequence in C is nothing but a function f from n to C. And we can denote Zn, define n as image of n. So we can write the sequence Zn as Z1, Z2, Zn, and so on. Okay. So whenever we have a sequence, the next thing that we are interested is whether that sequence converges of or not. Okay. So when we say sequence Zn converges to Z in C, so you all might know the definition. I won't waste time here. If given epsilon positive, there exists a stage n, and after that stage, for all n greater than or equal to n, xn minus mode zn minus z is less than epsilon. That is, we should able to estimate zn minus z as we wish. Okay, but to use this definition, there is some difficulty. So what is the difficulty? We need to know what z is. So we need to guess the limit. So how we will guess the limit? So we will look into that. So Zn is a complex number. So Zn can be written as n plus in, right? So here xn and yn are in R. And for corresponding to each n, we have xn plus iyn. So what we have corresponding to each n, we have a complex sequence n. And with respect to, we are getting a real sequence xn and yn. So this is the next question that we need to ask here. So anybody have any idea? We have a complex sequence, and with that complex, getting two real sequences. And we are interested in the convergence of Zn. Okay, so we can ask whether the convergence of Zn is the convergence of Xn and Yn. So answer is yes, there is a relation between convergence of these sequence. So the relation is if Xn converges to X and Yn converges to Y, then Zn converges to Z, that is equal to X plus Iy. Okay. Now, on the converse, okay, we have seen this. On the converse, if Zn converges to Z, that is X plus Iy, then it will imply Xn converges to X and Yn converges to this. But we are not going to prove this, but you can try. This is not that difficult. So what this is important? This is important. This gives us a way to guess the limit of Z, because we already know how to deal with the real sequence. So we can guess the limit of Zn and use the definition. Also, it is will be the limit. We can just use this theorem and we will get a limit of z. On the contrary, if we need to connect a sequence to converging a number 2 plus 3, then what we can do, we can just take a real sequence which converges to 2 and another real sequence which converges to 3. Then what should we define Zn as? Xn plus Iyn. Then by this theorem, this Zn will converges to 2 plus 3i. All right. So this is very important theorem. We can use it in many ways and in many places. So let's move on. The next thing is continuous function on C. So let A be a subset of C and let Z, sorry, this is Z. Let Z is a member of A. Then a function A to C is said to be continuous on Z if we will use the sequential criteria, that is for every sequence Zn which converges to Z, the corresponding sequence f of Zn must converge to f of Z. Okay. So this is to, about the continuity at a point Z. So when will we say f is continuous on a set A? If it is continuous at all points in A. Okay. Now we will try to see some example. So what's the very easiest example for a continuous function? Constant function. So if we say f of Z equal to C, okay, f is from C to C. Then is it continuous? Yeah. If we take any point Z in C, and if we consider Zn, which converges to Z, then what is f of Zn? It will be the constant C, right? The constant sequence C converges to C. So this is f of Z. So the constant sequence is converging. Now the other example, we can take f of Z is equal to Z itself. Okay. Now here we have to do something. That is, it's easy to observe that if Zn converges to Z, then what will be f of Zn? It is also the sequence Zn and it converges to Z, that is f of Z. So this is also a continuous function, but we will see something more. That is f of Z is Z, and if Z is x plus Iy, we can write in this way. So what we wish is that we wish to rewrite this as uz plus ivz, where u and v are real valued function. Okay, so we need to rewrite this function as uz plus ivz. So can someone suggest uz here? So uz must be from C to R. Sorry, u must from C to R, and u of z must be equal to x. So how can we define u of z? Okay, we can take just real of z, right? Then we will get u of x plus iy equal to x. And if we consider v of z as imaginary part of z, then we will get u of v of x plus iy as y. So why we are doing this? So here we got two real valued functions. Similarly, for any function f of z, we can write it as u of z plus iv of z, where u and v are real valued function. And we are interested with the continuity of f. So what's the next question that we need to ask? Similar that it is similar to that we did earlier. Does the continuity of f is somehow related with continuity of this real valued function u and v? So the answer is yes. That is, f is continuous at z if and only if the corresponding real valued function u and v are continuous at z. Okay, so this will also be, I will leave this an exercise. So write the theorem precisely and try to prove this. So this will follow easily from the definition of continuous functions. So here we can see, okay, we already proved f of z equal to z by using sequential criteria. And if we rewrite it with u of z plus I v of z, and you can see that u of z is continuous, right? If we take any sequence which converges to z, what is real of z then? It converges to real of x. That is precisely the theorem that I stated above. And similarly, we can see u of z is also convergent, also continuous, etc. So from that argument also we can say f of z is continuous. Okay, so this is thing about continuous function, and we can see one more example. F of z is equal to conjugate. So here what will be our u of z? It will be f of x plus iy mapping to x minus iy. So what will be u of z? That will be real z. What will be v of z? This is minus y. So we can take minus imaginary of z. So a similar argument, do you observe that f of z equal to z conjugate is continuous? Okay, so by similar argument, we can see that this function is also continuous. So, right function in terms of u and v will help us see the continuity in much easier way. Okay, so let's go on. Now, after doing
Just
with
a gentle reminder that 15 minutes are over. Okay.
okay, thank you. Let's see the limit, that limit of a function. So A be a subset of C and Z not be a cluster point of A. So that not be a point of A. So let f from A to C be a function. We say the limit Z tend to Z naught if there exists if given epsilon positive, there exists a delta positive such that whenever Z minus Z naught is less than delta, then f of Z minus L is less than. Even though the function is not defined at Z naught, we can know how the function will behave in the near values. So if you approach less than, then we can see how the function behaves near the point Z naught. So why we are introducing the concept of limit? So we have to deal with differentiable function. So here we can see limit is unique. Okay, that is very easy to see. You have to check that. Okay, now we will move to differentiable functions in C. So set of C, if function u from C is said to be differentiable at C if we will look at f of z plus h. That is, we need to look at the differentiability at Z. We will look the value of function at z plus h, and we will the difference of this value, and we divide it by z, sorry, h, and we let limit h tends to 0. And if this limit exists, say some L, then we say f is differentiable at z. Okay, so if this exists, and if this exists, then it is easy to see that the limit is unique. Limit is unique. Then we will define f of z as limit z tends to z naught f of z plus h minus f of z by h. Okay, so this is the differentiability at a point z. Now, if the function is differentiable at every point on u, then we say f is holomorphic on u. So f is said to be holomorphic on u if f is differentiable for all z in u. Okay, so let's see some examples. If f of z is a constant function, this is very easy to observe. So what will be the f of z minus f of z, the quotient? This f of z plus h is c, f of z is c. So this will be 0. So the limit exists. So the constant function is holomorphic. Similarly, f of z is equal to z. What is this quotient? zh minus z by h. So this is 1. So the limit exists and this is holomorphic. Now what about this function? So it will be f of z plus h minus f of z by h. So z plus h whole conjugate minus z conjugate by h. But you can verify z plus h whole conjugate is z conjugate plus h conjugate and minus z conjugate by h. So the quotient reduced to z conjugate by h, okay? H conjugate by h. So we need to look at this limit. So does this limit exist? Here we have to be careful because this is 0, 0 and h is approaching to 0. So there are a lot of ways in which h can approach to 0, right? So in particular, what is the two easiest way to look at the limit? Through x-axis and this imaginary axis, real axis and imaginary axis. So if h is equal to r, what is this limit? H conjugate by h, that will be limit h tends to 0, h by h, that will be 1, right? But if h is approaching through this axis, so it will be IH form, then it will be limit IH tends to 0, IH conjugate, that is minus IH by IH. So this is minus 1. So the limit will be minus 1 if this is approaching through imaginary axis. So does the limit exist? No, because the limit depends on the path through which h is approaching to 0. So we can say f is not holomorphic. So, but we saw something about this function earlier, that f is continuous, right? So this example shows that continuous function need not be holomorphic. But then the next question will be, is the converse true? Does the holomorphic functions are continuous? So the answer is yes. You can try to verify that. After the holomorphic function, we can, so here we talked about the limit that h tends to 0, this limit exists. So we will try to see something, that is, we wrote f of z as u of z plus I v of z, right? So here we can see that z is actually a function of x and y. So we can always write f of z as u of xy plus I v of xy. So here we can see this is nothing but f of z can be expressed as, okay, sorry. F of z can be expressed as u of xy plus I v of xy. U and v are real valued function of the real variable x and y. Now from this idea, we suppose f of z is holomorphic, and can we get some necessary condition from here? So I will just show our motivation. We will suppose f of z is holomorphic. So this limit exists. So exists means it is independent of path. So as in the previous case, we will try to see what is the limit if we try to approach through real axis and imaginary axis. So we write complete here. So if h is real axis, you write f of z in terms of u and v and try to see what happens through h when h is approaching through real axis. Similarly, try to see what happens when h approaches to imaginary axis. So, and try to see something that we can conclude or not. So it will be a necessary condition for holomorphicity. After that, you can think whether that is sufficient and what else can be made, so it will be annual. So this is the thing that you can do after holomorphic function.
Thank you.
I just want to tell the references. So I have referred Kumaresan sir's complex analysis book, and also you can see in the MTTS side, there are articles by Kumaresan sir, so you can read that. So you may see some nice geometrical interpretations and all. Thank you.